Are you in the thick of grafting a new child into your life and family through foster care? Do you know another mom or family looking for insight at the beginning of their adoption process? Are you or your family living alongside another as they walk the highs and lows of caring for themselves and their kids in this process? Whether or not you are a foster and adoptive parent or simply know of one, Mother's Day can carry a lot of weight and hurt for both mother and child alike. Today, we'll hear from Melissa Clemens, mother of 4, and Amber Wing, mother of 5, as they share their experiences walking through both foster care and adoption. They share the ups and downs of their journeys as moms through various seasons of their lives and share how they have seen our God work in and through themselves and their families. You're listening to audio from University Baptist Church in Beaver Creek, Ohio. Our mission is to make wholehearted followers of Christ who know Him and make Him known. We recognize that Mother's Day is hard for many women and want mothers and women of all types to feel seen and encouraged by the church. I'm Kelcey Flynn, your host and fellow UBC member. On behalf of the women's ministry here at UBC, we hope you enjoy this motherhood mini-series and visit us at ubcbeavercreek.com for more information. Let's listen in. Well, Melissa and Amber, I am so grateful that you both have joined us today, and I'm glad that we get to have this conversation just about adoptive and foster care and what that journey, right, has looked like for both of you individually, as friends, as members of a church body with your kiddos, but two, what it looks like in light of Mother's Day, right? Because Mother's Day is this beautiful, right, holiday where we get to celebrate mothers, but it's also hard, right, for a lot of women. And so we have the privilege of having you both today to kind of share your stories about how your view of Mother's Day, right, has changed in light of you guys have adoptive and foster kids. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Well, ladies, I would love if both of you would just introduce yourself a little bit. So tell us a little bit about who you are, how you spend your days, and how you're involved at UBC.
So my name is Melissa Clemens. I am married to Drew. We are getting ready to celebrate our 20th anniversary this year, awesome, which is amazing. We have 4 boys. Our first 2 are biological and our second 2 are adopted through foster care. And how I spend my days. So I currently am a substitute at our boys' school. So it helps to be a little bit flexible during my week. And while my boys are at school, I can kind of be there with them and get to know that environment, but also be available at home during the week to take kids to appointments and running around and doing all the stuff.
Doing a mom thing.
Yes, doing all the things. So that is what, that's pretty much what my days look like right now, heading into summer, and that's all going to change in a heartbeat. And at UBC, my husband is a deacon and I am on the worship team. So I lead about once a month. And I also help with the adoptive and foster care group at UBC. So it's Called to Care. That's the name of it. So we can talk more about that later.
Yes.
So
we're going to get
that's something else that I love to do and spend time on. So.
You're not busy at all, Melissa.
No.
Nothing going on.
Nothing.
Right?
And growth group too, which is wonderful.
I didn't think about that.
Yes.
4 boys, life, ministry. I mean, this is what mothers do, right?
It is. It is. And it changes every season, right?
Right. Right. All right, Amber.
My name is Amber Wing, and I have been married to Phil for 22 years.
Oh, my goodness.
We have 5 kids. Our oldest is 19, and it goes all the way down to 9. We had 2 biological kids. Then we adopted internationally, and then we adopted through the foster care system. So it has been a busy group of years. And I spend my days, I'm a homeschool mom, so been homeschooling in some way or fashion for how long now? 16 years.
Oh my goodness.
So, and that's looked different in different seasons. But that's what I spend a lot of my time on. Ministry at UBC. I had to take a step back for some health issues, but I have always worked with the kid ministry in some way. So I'm excited to get back into that soon. We lead a growth group together, and I keeps us busy, and obviously feels very busy at UBC as well.
So. I was like, yes, can we comment about the fact that both of you are extremely supportive wives with your husbands, right? In leading growth groups or deacon ministry, or right, Phil is on staff, right? Like, so both of you stay very busy and allow your men, right, to lead in really beautiful ways, which I know I'm grateful for, and our greater church is grateful for. So thank you both. Well, obviously, we've just briefly, right, talked about you and what your families look like. So tell us a little bit, each of you, about your journey into motherhood, and how that began and continues to be, and how you became involved with fostering and then adopting.
So Drew and I, like I said, got married about 20 years ago, and we had our two biological boys, and my pregnancies were really, really hard and awful. And our doctor advised that I probably should not do it again. So we had our boys, and Drew had always had a heart for adoption. I was not there. I felt like, life was pretty busy with two at home, and I didn't have that, longing or that like movement of the Spirit in me yet. And Drew did, which was fine. That's actually pretty common for one spouse to have that and the other one not to have it.
Yes.
For me, it was literally one night God woke me up and I couldn't get back to sleep. And I went out to the couch and just sat with my Bible and just read. And I felt like it was one of the moments in my life where I felt God stirring in me so uniquely that I knew I had to pay attention. I didn't know what it meant. And so I was just poring over the word and praying. I didn't even know what I was praying about. And then I went to bed and got up the next morning, and I just felt like God was telling me that our family wasn't finished. And so that day, Drew went to work as normal, and I asked him, I was like, hey, can we meet for lunch? And so we met for lunch. We had the boys. And so over lunch, I dropped this bomb and I was like, hey, guess what?
By the way,
I'm ready.
I said, I don't think our family is finished. And he was like, what does that mean? So I said, I don't know. I really don't know. And we didn't. And so we just honestly started having conversations with people and praying about it. Like, Lord, what are you trying to tell us? We had friends like the Wings that had already adopted. And so we had conversations with our friends who had already walked down that road. And we just started, Drew and I are both very research oriented. So we started just having conversations with adoption agencies.
Okay.
And we were actually having one specific day, and we were kind of describing what we felt like God was stirring in our heart, like how we wanted to help. And this woman at the agency said, I think you guys are more lined up with the idea of foster care, which for her to say that in the first place was crazy. And we did not know very much about foster care at that point at all. So we were like, oh, interesting. We had never had really any experience with it or people close to us that had done that. And so anyways, we started talking to a foster care agency and just kept walking through doors until God shut them. And God never shut them for foster care. We got involved with a really great agency, and, it takes about a year to do your training. And it was literally every training we went to, we were like, okay, Lord, we're going. If this is not it, please make it obvious. And he just didn't. And so it kept actually being encouraging and felt like very affirming that we were doing what he wanted us to do. So we finished all of our licensing at the end of 2013. And then New Year's Day, we got our first call to see if we would be willing to accept this little girl. And so that was New Year's Day. And we had no idea really what that process was like. And so they called us, and it was on a holiday, right? We were doing stuff. And so we said, yes, we'll take her. Can we, how about a couple days? And we had no idea. And they were like, oh, she'll be there this afternoon. So
oh my goodness.
We just didn't know. And so she showed up, and she was a medically fragile baby. So, which we had zero experience with, zero idea of what we were walking into. Like she walked in and they carried her in and they had like oxygen machines and just everything that we had zero experience with. She had a G-tube, all those things. So it was very much like, you know, it was a crash course on how to take care of this child, not only inviting, you know, a new child into your family, but, you know, someone who's super dependent on you. So she was with us for about a year total. And during the summer of that year, we also had another little girl join us. She was kind of at the end of her fostering journey. She was on her way back to be with her bio mom. So we got to interact with her, which was really neat. So they both ended up leaving right around the same time, which was super hard. Like it was within weeks of each other. And that was right before Thanksgiving. And that was, you know, one of the hardest parts is, you know, sending these babies back. One of them, I felt good about where she was going. The other one was harder, the one that had been with us for a long time. Then Drew and I took a break and took a trip, just the two of us, which was very much needed.
Yes.
And then starting that March, it's called opening up your house again when you're willing to, you know, take more kids. And we got called pretty quickly about our 2 boys that we have now. And we said yes. And they were officially still in foster care with us for 3 years. So it took about 3 years for it to go through. Wow. And then we got to adopt them. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. So how long was that gap, Melissa, in between your rest period? Like between
it was about
the 2?
3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And that was a sweet time. It was really hard, but it was good for us with our 2 older boys too.
And how old were your oldest 2 when you started this journey?
My oldest was 6.
Oh my.
Yeah. And so my other one would have been 3, almost 4.
You were not busy at all either.
No.
Oh my goodness.
So we did the whole, you know, they were all under 6. So we did the whole double stroller, triple stroller, all of the things.
Yes.
So that's what the process looked like for us. So now we've, you know, they're all ours and it's a whole different ballgame now. Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa.
Sure.
All right, Amber,
right.
I'd love to hear from you. And I was like, you have 5, right?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, Phil and I got married about 22 years ago. And maybe we were married about a year when we were like, okay, we would be fine to start trying. And it just kept not happening. So we were like, okay, well, we're trying all the things. We're seeing doctors. It was almost 2 years of infertility for us, where we started looking at some other options. Okay, if this isn't going to go this way, we know we want to grow our family, so maybe we should start looking at adoption. I was totally open to that. We'd both always been open to that, and I thought, well, I guess that's why God put it on my heart, because I'm going to have no choice. You know, like I just thought that's what this is. So we were doing some fertility medication at the time, and my doctor said, this is the very last month that we're going to do it before you would have to do more major intervention. And we knew we didn't really want to go down that road. And we got pregnant on that very last month. So that was a shock and surprise.
Amber.
And then our doctor said, you know, this is probably going to be every time, if not more.
Okay.
And then 7 months later, we found out we were pregnant again with no intervention or help, which was even more of a shock.
7-month-old.
Yes. So they ended up being just 16 months apart. And so we went from 0 to 2 quickly. And after waiting for almost 2 years. So that was a whirlwind. So we just were busy with 2 young kids.
Yes.
And then I had just found, as they were getting older, like that desire for adoption wasn't gone, which I thought that it would be. Kind of like Melissa mentioned, I also had very rough pregnancies, very sick. And I knew I didn't want to do that again because I knew I could not care for my 2 kids if I were to do that again, because it was just so hard every day for the whole 9 months. So I was very open to adoption. Phil was not. And so once again, it was kind of that similar place where he's like, I'm not really feeling that at all. He kind of felt like, I think we could be done even if we, you know, so we just kept praying about it. I just asked him, would you just be open to pray about it and just stay open and not close that off. So that was a pretty long time where I just like gave it to the Lord and said, I need you to open his heart or close mine, and that's okay. So he was actually gone at a conference in Texas for work, and he called me one night out of the blue. Once again, just the Spirit working at a random moment where he just said, I was there tonight, and some of the things that were talked about, I just knew were for me, and we're supposed to do this. And I was just sitting on the phone like, what? Because literally when he left for the trip, it was a no.
It was a no.
Yeah. So for him to then just be like, not only am I thinking about it, like I feel like it's confirmed we're supposed to do this, was shocking. So we just sat there on the phone. Okay, what does this mean? I don't know. What does this mean? Let's move forward. So we didn't have any, we should do this or we should do that idea. So we just started researching agencies. And kind of like Melissa said, the doors kept opening. So we just walked forward with them. And one of them was the Ethiopia program through our agency. And we just said, okay, we'll just keep walking forward and see what happens. So that is how we adopted internationally. And we thought, okay, yeah, then we're going to be done.
And you have 3 at this point.
Right. And then we felt like we weren't done. And I said and thought, well, I would be fine with adopting again, but I do not want to do foster care. That was my one thing. I just thought, I just don't think I can do that. I don't think that I could handle that. I don't think that I could give that much for so much uncertainty. It was the uncertainty piece for me. And I just thought, I can't do it. And then God said, I want you to do foster care. So and I think a lot of that was he used the Clemens in our lives and us walking alongside them on their foster journey. And we decided, okay, we're going to do this. And we started doing the trainings and kind of the same thing. God kept opening the doors. For us, we had a few calls that didn't pan out, even though we said yes to them. And then we were only going to take one child. We were very specific about that. And only one. Because we lived in a very small house and we already had 3 kids. And even just bedroom wise, we're like, where would we even put them? So then we got a call for 2 kids. Sibling group, baby and toddler. And we thought, we only said 1. But then when Phil and I both talked, we're like, I feel like we're supposed to say yes. And we said yes. And we were told, you never know. You don't get a lot of information and you have no clue what is going to happen with their case or with their lives. And we were told that it was probably going to be short. So we're like, okay. And then they were with us for 2.5 years and then we adopted them. So it was a wild journey, difficult, but yeah. So that's how our 5 came to be in our family.
Oh my goodness. And your age ranges, right, again, Amber?
Yeah, our 9 to 19.
Oh my goodness. That's insane. Ladies, there's a lot of life that happened in all of those.
A lot.
Oh my goodness. So if you both don't mind taking a minute, what were some of the challenges that you 2 encountered as moms in these roles? As well as some joys, but, maybe let's just start with some of the things that you didn't expect to be so hard.
So when I think about this question, I think about it in 2 different ways because we had the fostering piece and also now the adoption piece.
Right.
And so the challenges, some of them are the same, but some of them are very specific. So as Amber was saying, when you get that call, you are choosing in a moment to say yes or no to what could be forever.
Oh my.
And you don't know. You have no idea, or it might not be.
You don't know.
And
I didn't even think about that.
Yes, it's so immediate. And so that is a really hard part of it is that you don't know what you're saying yes to. And so, overall there's this continuous lesson of like having zero control. And I felt like I had naively of me, I felt like I had a little bit of control when it was just us and our 2 biological kids. I now know that's not true. But, you really feel it when you are saying yes to children that you don't have custody of, that, the county is still in charge of everything, even though you are still loving them and parenting them, you have almost no say. And you just have zero control. And that goes on for years. So it's very, it almost, like spiritually, it puts you in your place, right?
Oh, man.
Which is a good thing, but it's also challenging, right? It's a challenging and it's a joy because now that mine are getting older, so my oldest is almost 16 and my youngest is 10. You're entering teen years where you start to feel that loss of control in different ways. But so you're learning how to do that through fostering. But man, it's hard. It's super hard. Another part, let me think for a second. Something that I've noticed in both fostering and adopting is that you end up, at least for us,
right, this is very
very specific. You end up parenting differently. Since we had biological kids first, we parented them in a certain way. And this is true for every kid, whether biological, adoptive, whatever. But we have seen a big difference in the ways that we at least originally parented our bio kids and now are parenting our adoptive kids. They have a different past. They have trauma. And you just don't know how to do that until you have to do it and kind of like back up and say, okay, this is not working like it used to with this child. And you have to, at least we have had to learn, like, why is that the case? And what do we need to adjust in our parenting, in our approach, in the way that we love them and care for them individually? It can be really tricky because then you've got siblings and you're raising a family together.
Yes.
But so it's a lot of adjusting. But I also think that has been really good for us too. That's another joyful part too, is that you can't get stuck in your own parenting ways and habits very easily because it quickly becomes clear when you have to go to the Lord and be like, I need you to show me how to do this because I do not know what to do here. So it's just that continuous reevaluation that has been helpful.
Yeah.
The other thing that I will say about the joy that I have experienced, I feel like I could say a lot of things in this category, the challenges and joys. But one of the things I've noticed is that God continues to place, especially other women in my life who either have come from an addictive background and now are thriving moms.
Wow.
Like I just had this interaction with a mom the other day at a track meet, just randomly was standing next to her and we were talking about our kids who were running track and she just kind of opened up to me and she was talking about how she had come from this addictive background and she lost her kids to foster care for a while. She had no idea of my story and that she got them back and like these amazing things that the Lord had done in her life. And I was just in tears, like looking at her and saying, this is amazing. Like, let me celebrate this with you because I know what that means.
Yeah, you especially, Melissa.
Right. Once you've been on kind of the other side of it, like to be able to celebrate that, that felt like such a God moment to me when other things are hard, to be able to like talk to women in a way that's like, okay, I get to a certain degree what you've gone through. So that connecting part of it with other women that I might not have had without having the home life and the family life that we have, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. What a gift.
Yeah.
And at our track meet.
I know.
Right? Like,
I know. We were both like, oh, this is amazing.
This is amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh my goodness. So. That's wild.
It is. For me, I think some of the challenges, like you said, I think we could talk on this question for a long time, what the challenges and the joys both. Mm-hmm. But what came to my mind as I was thinking about this is just, I think by nature, I can be an A + B = C person. And this journey is not that, okay, at all. And that's motherhood in general, but especially, like you said, when there's so much control you don't have. It's not just I'm parenting this way And before I even became a parent, I was a preschool teacher and a nanny for years. And I felt like I knew what I was doing. Young me. If I could be like, you have no idea what you're doing. I would have described myself as so patient and all these things. And I'm just like, oh, sweetheart, you had no clue what you were about to do. But so it's just so much more nuanced, so much more difficult. The joy and pain together, coexisting. It's not black and white. Like almost no part of it is black and white. There's the heart is mixed in there with the joy. You know, it's
the heart is not black and white
in every way. And what you might think is that you can compartmentalize, you can't, because then you start to go, oh, there's this piece of it too, and this means this to me, but it doesn't mean that to them.
Right.
And so it's just. Yeah, the nuance, I think, is one of the biggest challenges because there's so many layers. There's so many layers or something you might think you're finished with, whether that be a behavior or a difficult season, a new one comes along. Or maybe one you thought was healed resurfaces. So, you know, that's just the challenge of kind of like as moms, you can go, the laundry's never done. There's always going to be more laundry,
Amen,
right?
sister.
You just have to go in your mind, that's never going to be a job that's finished. And that's very similar to this, I think. You know, you can't tie a bow on it. You can't say, now the work is done. You know, there is no pretty bow and it's deep. And as they grow, new things pop up for them. Yeah. So you are beside them and alongside them and trying to help them as they work through that. And the older they get, learn more about their story and who they are and what it means to them. It's always changing. So I think that's a challenge of being flexible, being ready to be there alongside, and that keeps looking different. I think, you know, and just seeing people you love so deeply hurt and struggle that you can't just go, you can't. And you can say, I love you and I want to help you and how can I help you? But it's hard too. Yes. So I think that's a challenge of just not being able to fix it or it be finished, you know? So I think one of the joys that once again, I could have a list, but came up specifically for me is seeing relationships flourish that used to struggle. And in our family, that has looked like, sometimes that has looked like a parent with a child, a specific child, or even we've seen it a lot in the sibling relationship. Oh, wow. Where it's gotten to a point where we will have to sit down and be like, hey, I don't know if you've noticed this, but you kind of keep coming at this person in this way, or maybe viewing them in this way. And I know it's hard because they're going through something hard, but I think you both need to work on this relationship. Yeah. And, you know, just being honest with them that like, I know this is hard and messy, but I think if you remember this certain thing, you would think about that differently. Yes. Or that maybe you could both try harder on your relationship. And we've had to have some tough conversations with them of like, you know, you're just being mean over and over and over. And there's not a lot of grace here. Which that can be siblings, of course. Yes, but it's more sensitive in this scenario. We've seen a deeper struggle sometimes between relationships where they're just not getting along, not just not getting along, but not liking each other and not being helpful in any way, shape, or form to the situation as a whole. But then seeing those kids work on it and they might not acknowledge it in the moment, but probably later see when those things pop up. Yeah, maybe I do that. And us as parents, we've had to do that too. I do, that triggers me. So when they act that way, I don't like them in that moment, or I want to avoid it because it feels not good, it's hard. It rubs me the wrong way, that specific behavior. And just us having to honestly address some of those relationships and go, I'm going to choose to work on it, and help our kids to say, I need you to choose to work on this to love each other better. So I think that has been some of the joy of eventually seeing the fruit of those little things every day. It's not like it gets better in a moment, but that over time, we've talked with them now later. Hey, remember when you guys could not stand each other and now you want to hang out? You know, that's a lot of work, and you both did some work. You both did work. I'm proud of you for that. And it's not always easy, but we can see the fruit of that relationship, or I can see, oh, I've worked so hard with this kid to connect who I had a hard time connecting with. Mm-hmm. And I can see little moments will pop up and I'll go, oh, that's that stuff we've been working on so hard, and it's a joy.
I love that you said, Amber, like it's a choice, right? Like that your love and care for each other, right? You as parents, right? But also as siblings, right? Like it's a daily choice that you all are having to make, right? Because so much of it is like, oh, do I feel the Spirit leading me, or do I feel love towards this person? But so much of it, right, like is a daily choice, and that you see the fruit, right, of that discipline, right, in your life, and like what a gift for your kids. I'm even like thinking as they just resolve hard conflict and hard trauma, right, as they meet even new people, not just their own siblings, right, but. Wow, I feel like that's a really good reminder, right? Like that we have to choose to do it every day. And
feelings, hard. Feelings can definitely be deceiving.
Very.
In our homes, especially.
We talk a lot about feelings.
Yeah.
Lots of feelings.
Yeah.
And
that could be a whole side conversation right today.
Big feelings, how we manage them.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Do you have anything else to share, Amber?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Then I would love to know, ladies, because obviously we're talking about this in light of Mother's Day. How has the meaning of Mother's Day changed for each of you and expanded, right? Honestly, right, by grafting new children into your families?
For me, I think it has made it both more complicated and also sweeter at the same time. I think God really changed something in my heart that made me have more compassion for every other kind of mother, every other kind of woman who, even acts as a mother to someone else, because it's just a complicated day. And I don't think I realized that when I was first married, when I first had my first two boys. But when you just invite so many other people into the story, so many other people that Mother's Day affects. So, when you start fostering, you invite the bio moms into that story. And you also have, then you have kids in your home who have this bio mom that they don't see, and they're still trying to figure out what that is, but that's their... that was their first mom. And so there's always a connection there. Right. But then they also have me acting as their mom for a while. And, so you have that mom, and then you have, like I mentioned before, we had, one little girl who was just with us for a few months, and then she went back to her mom. So we had these interactions with her mom, because that's how it works at the end. You're increasing visits, and you're around them a little bit more. And so you've got this other person that you're rooting for this mom. Like, at least we're rooting for this mom. She was doing great. She was making good steps. But then you've got this little girl who was so confused and had a really hard time going back and forth. And so, and, then I had our first little girl. Like they were talking to us about adoption towards the end. We thought that's where we were headed, and then it didn't. And so she is always a part of my Mother's Day as well, because she is one that, got taken from our home and, sent to live with other relatives, which was good. And so we were supportive of that, but I had to love her as a mom for a year. And it doesn't have to be a year. I mean, it can be one day, right? But for us, we had we were hoping and praying that's where it was headed, and then it didn't. And so that is a grief, and a loss that I will always have on Mother's Day. I've worked through it a lot in counseling. Praise the Lord.
Amen.
But I'll always have that, right? I will always think of her on that day and other big days, because I was mom to her for a period of time. So, Mother's Day just has made me more aware. I think my experiences around Mother's Day have made me more aware of how complicated it is, and just not being so... I don't want to say, maybe self-focused on that day.
Yeah.
And just realizing, for my adoptive boys, like it's a tricky day for them, even if they don't realize it's a tricky day. It brings up feelings and
right. It's not about you necessarily sometimes being celebrated, right, Melissa? But about how your children are processing through that holiday.
Yes, and like letting go of that is a little bit tricky for a few years. But and my family still does a great job of celebrating me. But I always have these other thoughts and prayers in my heart during that day.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I would say a lot of the same things. I think that Mother's Day isn't just my day, whereas I think, we can feel that way a little bit, or that is what it was when Mother's Day was a little more simple, where you don't think as much about that because we didn't have to think about that. So, yes, I knew Mother's Day was hard for other moms for many different reasons, but I hadn't been in this place before. So that you are sharing it with other people and that your kids are feeling big things. And like you said, Melissa, they can't always verbalize that. So sometimes that just means behavior. Sometimes that means your day ends up being really hard. And selfishly, that can feel like a bummer sometimes.
Yes, for sure.
Because we as moms,
I wanted this to be a fun day.
It's about, right. Like that's what's nerve wracking, right? Or dangerous, maybe is the better word, right? Is that it's about this holiday, right? It feels like it's supposed to be about us, but it's so nuanced, right? Like when people and your children, right, specifically are walking through their own trauma and story of what that looks like. Yeah, Amber.
Very much.
I can't even imagine.
Their moms are on their mind and that's okay. And we tell them that, like, it's okay to miss them. And, we understand that. And I'm not going to take that personally. You love your other mom and that's okay. We love them too. So, but that means different things for our kids. But where is she? How is she doing? It's, there's a lot of deep feelings there that are on their minds that maybe they don't always tell us. So when days like this happen, they can just, all kind of crash down on them. Yeah. And that's understandable. So I think we're always thinking of their other mom who is out there also celebrating a day without them and the heaviness of that. And so once again, we're just talking about the both and of all of this.
The both and, the tension.
Yes, that it's beautiful and it's hard too. And it's messy, but it's also there's joy in being their mom and watching them grow. And I feel so blessed to watch their journey and try to help them through it. But, that it's hard too.
Yeah. Can I ask you both, are there practical ways you guys like walk through the day, right? Or holidays like this that can be triggering, like you guys specifically, both as mothers, like ways that you care for yourself or ways that you care for your kids? I know that wasn't on our script, but I'd just love to know for the people listening, like, are there ways that you guys have done that in your own lives as you navigate?
It's a good question.
Those,
right? It's definitely been a learning process.
Okay.
I think for our family, when it comes to holidays, most birthdays, some birthdays are a little bit different. We are very low key about it, just because different days like that, different days of celebration and different, all kinds of feelings come up. And so as a family, we have chosen, like, we're pretty low key about that stuff. Okay. My expectations are very low. At least I try to get my expectations very low. I'm not always great at it, but, and that's just been a learning process. And on those days, my husband and I don't push the questions. Like, we don't, sit our boys down and say, are you thinking about your first mom today? We don't feel the need to do that unless it seems like they are having a really hard time, and then we'll try to have a gentle conversation about, are you thinking about stuff today? I know it's kind of a weird day, and just being aware that those conversations might need to happen that day. Yeah. And, we talk about their bio parents fairly often, so it's not a weird conversation to have for us, but we're learning.
Yeah, I think managing expectations is a big part of it. And, we'll definitely shoot each other a text of happy birthday to this person. Are you having a hard day? Because we do know that sometimes those special days are also hard.
Yeah.
And because they don't know how to process them, it can just come out in other ways. And just like you said, we keep them low key, we keep them simple. try to take it as it comes, celebrate it and make it special, or also be very upfront about what we're going to do that day is a big thing for them to know what's happening. I didn't grow up in we have all these specific traditions for holidays, family, but we have done that a little more because I think it has helped them know what to expect. It helps them to know, here is what we do on Christmas. Here is what we do on my birthday. I give them some control. I let them pick their meals. I let them pick their dessert. We just don't do cake for everybody. We say, what do you want for your birthday this year? So I try to give them little pieces of control that help them feel a part of it.
Yeah, and ownership of it.
Yeah, and it not feel so unknown or what's that day going to look like. That can just cause some anxiety. So we try to approach it that way, but also knowing, it could derail at any moment. And you just...
Blessed are the flexible, for they will not be broken in half.
Right. Yes. So, we might be exchanging some glances over the dinner table of, wow, what is happening? Because everything was fine and now it's not.
And now it's not. That's parenting, right? And motherhood.
Yes. What just happened? It all fell apart. So, yeah.
Yep. Oh, thank you, ladies. So for those not in this stage or season, what are some specific things you'd ask them to be mindful of? And what do you wish that those not walking this journey, right? Me included, right? I have 2 biological children, but I don't have bio kids. Like, what would you tell them that you wish they knew about this season?
First, I would say to not feel bad or guilty that you don't know what it's like. Because when Drew and I, we joke around like, when we think back to 10 years ago, we often say, we had no idea. Like I've even said to Amber, because they adopted before we did, like, I am sorry if I ever said anything weird about adoption, because you just don't know. And sometimes it's awkward. Like people who aren't in it don't know. They're afraid they're going to ask the wrong questions, or they're afraid they're going to offend in some way. We have pretty thick skin. So, but
we've heard some crazy things. You're probably not even going to come close to offending me.
Yeah. It's more like when yeah, we've learned a lot, but it's only through experience. I feel like we knew nothing beforehand, which is normal. So I want people to not feel guilty or, weird about that. A lot of it is just curiosity. Like gentle curiosity.
Oh,
Kelcey, you are actually someone who is really good at this.
You are.
Asking questions, because we're all in a growth group together.
Yes.
People don't know that.
We should tell everyone that. Yeah.
People who are really good at just asking curious questions, being, and just in a gentle way. Tell me what birthdays are like if your child's birthday is coming up, like tell me how you guys handle that in your house. Or I can't think of another one right now, but I lost my train of thought.
Oh no.
John, cut this out.
I just love though, Melissa, that line, like gentle curiosity. Like I feel like that's a really good way of encapsulating, because we've talked about that through this series, right? Is that a lot of it requires the asker to have a humble posture, right? Of, I don't know, but I want to understand.
Yes.
So help me understand and help me support you. So I love just that. I feel like that puts words, Melissa, right, to something that's very hard to navigate, right? Like whether this situation and this stage of motherhood or not, right? So
yep.
Yeah, I love that.
A couple things that I think I would have appreciated knowing before I did this is for the families who are, and really it can be across fostering and adopting, it can be super isolating because there are things happening usually in your family, in your home that feel like too much to share honestly with everyone, which I think is fine. If you have your people that you can share honestly with, that's great. But when you are out socially, when you're with just whoever, maybe someone who's not as close to you, and they ask, how are things? There is a part of you as a foster and adoptive mom that knows that you shouldn't say everything because one, it might scare people.
Everything's on fire.
Everything's on fire. But also
but I'm also okay.
Yes.
It's weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're also like trying to protect your kids in the way that you answer and all the stories that are happening. And so it can feel super isolating. For us, like having Phil and Amber and the kids has been such a gift because, we're in it together, have been in almost every day, and so having that community of people that you can just be totally honest with and be like, this sounds crazy, but
we all need that safe space, right?
Yes.
Because like that's what Satan wants to do is like keep you isolated and in your dark hole of like, no, like this is just you and this is just your child and your problem, right? But like that's not the case, right? And when we share that, right, with a friend, and I mean, praise the Lord that you two have had each other, right, for so many seasons, right? Like what a gift that is. Yeah. So I just hope that like our church and men and women alike, right, can that we can do this better, right? Yeah. And around this holiday and not. Yeah. So I love that, Melissa.
The other thing I was going to mention, which we were kind of joking about, just the crazy things that people say and that I probably said too, one of the, I'm just always in my conversations with the people. And if someone's being vulnerable with me, I never want to say something that feels triggering to them or hurtful. Like we have 4 boys and you have no idea how many times people say to us, oh, are you trying for a girl? And all the time, which I understand. I totally get it. But what that person doesn't know, and the days when I'm feeling a little spicy, I'll be like, actually, we did have a little girl and here's what happened. I don't know, So there's just that history and that can be across any situation, right?
Yes. But in this one specifically, it's a good reminder, right? To people listening, right? Yes. Be thoughtful of your comments, right? Before you interact, right? About making assumptions about how someone built their family.
Correct. And we do give a lot of grace, but I felt like that was something I wanted to mention. Like they're just,
Oh, it's so important. I feel like, right, we would be remiss to not say that because I feel like that is the church, right? And fellow brothers and sisters in Christ cannot come alongside people they meet as well as like non-believers, right? If you don't do that carefully, like I love that, right? What did you say? Gentle curiosity. Gentle curiosity, right? Like that you have to do it gently, right? With the forethought and without assuming, right, that someone just magically had babies and everything was perfect, right? And like they're living the Joneses' American life, right? Like, but that's not what God, right, has for us many times. So yeah, I feel like that is crucial, Melissa.
Yeah, that brings up a lot of mine, and just we don't mind answering questions. We're okay. I think most things we would steer clear of are maybe some of their personal stories that maybe aren't the best to lead off asking with. And I think most of what we would want people to know that are not in the season is just how much it's not just about adding. There's also a lot of subtraction that happens. And I think sometimes people can say, wow, you're so great for doing that. Or your kids are so lucky. Or, and I understand people saying that. I get that. You understand the sentiment and they're really just trying to be nice. But for them to just remember, there's also a lot of subtraction. There's a lot of loss that happened for us to add. And that is still there. That doesn't go anywhere. And
I've never thought about that, Amber.
Yeah, that I think it's easy to say, oh, you added to your family in all these ways. But for those kids, they lost a lot to get here. So
that's a weird part of like an adoption day is because it's this celebratory day, but also it is such a huge loss for them. So it's this weird dichotomy of that specific day. And it just kind of, and I would have never known that either.
I wouldn't have. I never would have even thought of it.
Well, again, just using that language, right? Because I can hear myself, right, in probably previous conversations with you guys or right with others of like, oh my goodness, right, you added to your family, but not even thinking, right, adding, therefore, right, like could also assume subtraction, right? Like that's just a really simplistic way, I feel like, Amber, that you, were able to say that.
Which is hard to understand if you haven't done it, but I think is helpful to others to think of and to know as they maybe approach someone whose family has adopted or they're currently fostering, that it might mean, that there's a lot of loss mingled in there too.
Yeah. Well, So ladies, how can others, as well as the greater church, right? Because we're talking to our church, and maybe, there will be an opportunity for someone else who's listening to this, who is a woman, maybe in your season. What would you tell them if they're in the thick of caring for a foster child or an adoptive child? And what are ways, right, that you would love to tell them how to get support?
Pray for them.
Whole lot of prayer.
Tell them that you're praying for them.
Yeah. And actually do it.
And also praying for your kids.
Ooh.
One of the biggest things I thought about with this question is a huge way that we have seen the church come alongside us is loving our kids, loving our bio kids, loving our adoptive kids, loving the kids we're fostering. Individually is huge, but also as a group, like people that really can, show these kids love in a different way than we do. That's huge. That's been a huge thing for us, like watching other adults that we trust and love invest in the kids in our family. Yeah. And that can just be coming up to them on a Sunday morning and my older boy is punching them in the arm, and just laughing about it.
Oh, yes.
Thinking of you, Jim Corbin. But, and other practical ways, bringing a meal, sending a gift card, because especially when you're fostering, it really is a second full-time job, just keeping up with all the appointments, all the counseling, all the meetings with the county. You're just running around all day and dealing with, still dealing with behaviors and trying to connect and attach. And it's just a lot. And so that's just a huge practical way, because a lot of times you're not getting home. You're bringing all the kids home at dinner time, and behaviors are wild after a crazy day. And that's a really tough part of the day. Also, selfish plug for our Called to Care ministry
please,
at UBC.
Well, because we want men and women alike, right? If they're listening to this and they're considering it, right? Or if they're in the thick of it, or right, they're farther down the road, like the two of you, you're not alone, right? So so please share what that looks like.
So the Called to Care ministry started, I can't remember now, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's all kind of a blur. But it started as a ministry. We're connected to a parent ministry. So it's got all this structure behind it that's really been a gift. So we're part of this bigger organization that is now localized at our church.
Great.
Yeah. So it's been really nice. The ministry basically forms teams around foster or adoptive families. And so we're doing that at UBC within the families in our church. In these teams, they provide meals, they pray for them, they do all the things I was talking about, really. They get to know the family, they get to know the kids, really whatever that family needs, because it looks a little bit different. We have 5 teams at this point, which has been crazy to see, because I co-lead it with my friend, Tiffany Sloffman, and she is also a foster and adoptive mom. And so we feel like we always tell people we are spinning a lot of plates, but God really gave us a heart for this ministry to help others in our church have that team around them that at least our family kind of organically had when we were fostering. But we always tell people we're spinning a lot of plates, but it has been really, really incredible to see God just do the work and fill in all the gaps that we just can't, because he's just shown up every time and forming these teams around families. And it's been really neat to see the hands and feet of Jesus surround them and lift them up. And it's not perfect, but so getting involved in one of our teams is a really, I don't want to say easy, but it is a really easy way to help a family, because the structure is there. You're spreading things throughout a team of people. So you're just bringing one meal a month. And it's a really practical way to support these families who really need it.
I'm just thinking an accessible resource, right, for our church, right? Yeah. What a gift, Melissa.
Yeah, it's been really neat.
So is there a way that they can, I'm assuming, we can maybe put in our show notes, right? Like ways that they can get involved and ask questions, right? Whether to you or someone else at our church. Because, we definitely want men and women alike, right? We're co-parents, right, in this, right? There's two. You guys have wonderful husbands alongside of you, right, doing this journey. But it, like you said, it takes a tribe, right? It takes a tribe of people.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I thought of that. I think new families in the beginning really need people to circle around them. And sometimes that looks like prayer, gift cards, meals, paper plates.
Amen.
Napkins.
Throw it away.
Just anything that you can think of that might make things a little bit easier for them for a little bit. I just remember when we first adopted, someone did that for us. We had some meals set up and she said, I'm just going to bring over a bunch of paper goods. She was an adoptive mom. And I was like, why? I was thinking, why? She's like, so you don't have to do dishes and don't feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it. Break these out and use them as long as you need to. And all these years later, I'm still using them. So
pro tip for everyone listening, bring disposable, right, like containers and extra paper goods and plastic forks.
It's just those little things when life is overwhelming that can really help someone out, I think. And know that you see them and you're thinking about their day to day and how could I make that a little bit easier for them. I think another big thing is finding some trusted people who get it, I think is invaluable. I know we've mentioned that a few times that we've kind of had each other in this journey. And it really is invaluable because not only is the enemy going to attack you, but you're also just going to think, I bet nobody else has felt this way. Or you feel guilty for thinking, what were we thinking? We never should have done this. And or at times thinking this is too big and I can't handle it.
Yes.
Or why did you ask me to do this? Or you're going to have those things, and having someone else that gets you, that you can go, I'm feeling like this, and they're not going to judge you and they're going to get it. I just think is invaluable. And sometimes that might not be your family. I know that at times that can be hard for them to understand because they love you in a different way and they just want to help you and protect you. So I think if you don't have anyone, message me. I'll be that for you. Because I think you need to find someone because that's going to help you so much. Whether you just shoot a quick text or you say, can we meet for coffee? Whatever it is, I just really think that is huge to help you through, or it is going to feel impossible sometimes if you don't have someone else that goes, yeah, been there. I know what you're talking about. It's okay.
Seen, right? Seen in your own hurt as mothers, right? And as women, right? I know a girl, right, who isn't married, right? And she's fostering and adopting, right? Some women are doing this alone. I mean, maybe even men, right, too? But each of us, right, need that support system because, there's too much to do, right? There's too much work, right, for any one person to do.
Yeah, or I think if you're a person in close proximity to their life, educating yourself can be really helpful. And there's amazing resources out there. And Empowered to Connect is a great place to start. There's a podcast, there's books, there's things you can watch. I mean, there's so many ways that you can just go, I want to understand what this family is doing a little bit more. Or if you're a person who's close and loves their kids, how can you love them, and that can look different. So I think educating yourself is just, it means so much to the family, that the people in their life get it and understand and are also trying to help figure it out and understand it with them. Just means a lot. So I think if you're a person who, whether it's someone in your family or a close friend, begins to foster care or they choose to adopt or whatever it is, just a simple way to love them is to educate yourself, I think, on what that may look like and how you can love them and care for them.
And that resource, Amber, you said was called?
Empowered to Connect.
Empowered to Connect.
There's many out there. Okay. There's a lot.
Well,
that's our go-to.
It's a go-to.
Yes. No, but that's helpful, right? We want to give... We want to give resources that are tangible, right? Obviously this conversation I feel like is super helpful. Just having it, right? But like you said, if anyone wants more information on ways they can do that, either themselves because they're curious for their own family, or because, like you said, they know someone that's walking through this, what does that look like? So that's great. Well, ladies, as we round out our time, I would love to know how each of you have just seen the Lord work right through this journey, because that's what this is about, right? Is how you both have seen Jesus become more real, right, to you through this process, both through the brokenness, right, of this, but also like the joys, as you both shared. And what has he taught you, not only about yourself, but also about who he is?
The first thing that I think of in our challenges and struggles in this journey, and having seen God walk through it with us, is that he's not only walking through it with us, but he has gone before us every single day. And I've never experienced him providing what I need for each day, what my kids need each day, like I have since we started this journey. I mean, sometimes you go to bed and it's calm and all is good. And sometimes you go to bed and it's horrible when you're going to bed. And you're just praying, Lord, like, new mercies in the morning. I know that you will give me what we need for tomorrow. I don't believe it in my flesh right now, but I know that you will, because you promised to. And he does every time. And I have seen that so literally in our lives that it makes me trust him more, because he's the only one that can, let me say that differently. He is the only one that I can trust fully and wholly to give me what I need each day. And I cannot do it on my own. I do not know, I've said this to Amber before, I do not know how you do this without being a believer. Oh, wow. It just makes my heart hurt for foster parents and adoptive parents who don't know Jesus. I just don't know. It makes me so... I couldn't do it in
my own power.
No, it makes me so sad.
Can you elaborate why you feel like that is?
Because, there's just so much reliance that you have to have on God for wisdom and for peace, and for knowing that for all the things that you can, quote unquote, do as a foster and adoptive parents, which there are a lot of tools, there are a lot of things you learn. For all the things that you can do, you cannot heal that child. Oh. The healing only comes from God. Oh. And there are days and weeks on end where I am praying, Lord, you have got to heal this, because I can't. It is not in my power. It is not my husband's power. It is only God. And so having that to rest on helps me sleep, because I don't know. I don't know how you would do it without knowing that in the end, he's the only one that can do it.
Yeah, there are places we can't reach.
No, only it's so deep. And, it's this, just as a family, there are only things that he can heal in families that take this on. That if you were to take on all the guilt and all the feelings, it, like every night, it would crush you. The other thing I was thinking of is that when you tell people, at least when we told people that we were like, hey, we're going to start fostering, and, you get all these mixed reactions from people who don't have experience with it. And you inevitably get people who say, and they can be people that are close to you, to say, but aren't they broken? Aren't these kids broken? Like, that's not an uncommon thing to hear, phrased in one way or another. Like, isn't that risky to take them on? There's a lot of hurt there.
Like, they're concerned for you because of the hurt of the children.
Yes. And also this child's been through so much. How is there, where's the redemption in that? Like, where's the healing come from? And if anything, it has shown me how utterly broken I am, and it goes back to how God talks about he adopted us because we are so broken. We cannot do it without him. We cannot come to Jesus and fix ourselves. So I often think about that when people say, well, aren't they broken? And like, yes, but we all are, And so we all need Jesus. And that has shown me that I cannot do this on my own. My kids cannot do it on their own. Like, Jesus is our only hope in this, whether you're adopting or fostering or just walking through life, And so it's changed my perspective on that whole idea of brokenness and what that means in my relationship with the Lord.
Wow. Yeah. That's good. I think for me, learning pre this journey, I parented, like you were talking about earlier, we parent very differently than we did our first two. And in fact, I was just having a conversation with our first two about this recently. And they're like, so you're saying you feel bad about that? And I'm like, some things, yes, actually, I would do that differently. I wouldn't do that the same way because I have learned enough about the brain and different things that I have found that that's probably not helpful. And I do wish I would have approached it a different way. So we parent very differently. And I think I did a lot of a behavior pops up. I manage that behavior and you move on. But in this journey, you really have to stop and try to look at the why behind a behavior and why is that happening, which is why God has taught me so much about spirit-led parenting. And I think I did a lot in my own power before this, because I could. I could tackle it and we could have successful days and it was fine. But now I think spirit-led parenting is huge, of just asking daily, sometimes momentarily, I need help in this, or Lord, what is behind this? Or can you help me? Or there has been times that literally it can only be the Spirit, because it will just come to me that I'm pretty sure this kid is dealing with this. And I don't know where that came from. It only came from the Lord, that the Spirit is guiding me and helping me come alongside that child and say, do you think maybe, or have you been thinking about this or that? And they'll go, yeah. I'm like, I couldn't have come up with that on my own. So I just think asking for help daily,
inviting the Lord into your parenting.
Yes. And that the Spirit is our comforter and he is our guide. And, saying
all those attributes of the Lord that we need to remember.
That we need, that they need, and say, I need your help today, or in this certain behavior, can you please show me how to help, how to come alongside them? I think has been a huge thing. And I don't even... randomly, when I was asleep one night, okay, you're going to have to stick with me for this analogy. This came in my mind to the point that I wrote it down in my phone notes. And then I got up the next morning and looked at it and I was like, that is so dumb. Why did I think that was so important to write down last night? But for some reason, it's coming up in my mind right now. So I guess I'll share it.
Yes.
That I was just thinking how, there's all this hurt, there's all this abandonment, neglect, all these different things that are kind of like this hot bowl of soup, okay? And it's swirling. And when, I can't just take away the soup, okay? It's there. And it has to be eaten, and it has to be it's not going anywhere. So I can stick it in the microwave with my own feelings, and that's not going to be helpful, okay? Mm-mm. That is not going to be helpful at all when I give it more heat. But what I do with my kids sometimes is I put ice cubes in their soup to help, and I stir it around and make it more manageable. And I was just thinking, I need to think more often of what are some ice cubes that I can give right now?
Oh, wow.
To kind of help this situation. I can't take it away, right? I can't, like you talked about, you can't just make it gone or fix it. The bowl is hot and it's not going anywhere. So is there a way that I can come at this right now to help cool it off a little bit? Because guess what? Sometimes you don't want to. In that moment, you're hot too. And it's annoying, or it's hard, or it's making you mad, and it's over and over. And you're like, when is this ever going to get better? So I have thought of it several times since of what is an ice cube that I can give right now? Lord, give me an idea of just coming at it in a cooler way, which kind of leads me to my other one of what I've learned about God specifically, that I think a lot about him as a parent. It says in the word that it's his kindness that leads us to repentance. And I think as a parent, that can be hard, because sometimes we're like, well, you did X, Y, Z. And
that wasn't very kind.
Right. And sometimes that's okay. Yes, there's going to be consequences, of course. And we see that with the Lord too in our own lives when we are sinful people too. But that also our kindness as a parent can lead them to repentance as well. And saying, coming at it, like I said, with a cooler temperature than just the heat. I think I've learned a lot, and I'm so thankful that God does that with me and that I need that of his kindness going, he loves me and I love him. And that's why I want to change. We talk a lot about that to our kids, not just because it's right or wrong, but because your love for him is what should motivate our change, that we, in his love for us and reflecting on that, I know for me is what makes me kind of crumble and go, oh my word, I don't deserve that. Or I am so thankful that he loves me anyways. And having our kids feel that too is important, that they're going to mess up. It's going to be hard. You're going to make mistakes, but it's okay. I'm still here and I still love you. And you might be really mad at me and you might not like me, or you might wish that things were different. And that I'm thankful that the Lord approaches us that way. And I have been so very challenged to try to approach things that way. And I'm not always good at it. But I think that that is something that I've learned a lot of not just, just coming at it softer.
Yeah. That God is the best parent, right? He's the best one to be kind and gracious and patient and gentle, right? And when we can reflect, right, that to our kids in our parenting to them, but right, as both of you said, like remind them that he's the true and better parent, right? I mean, yes, our great high priest, yes, our counselor, right, like beautiful, glorified, right, King Jesus, but right, he's the true and better one, right, that we can trust with that. And I'm just even thinking too, as you ladies have shared, like without the Lord, like your heart wouldn't even be for these kids, right? For the brokenness, right? Like, and what a gift that is. And I'm just grateful, ladies, that we have women like you and you yourselves and your families, right? To remind us of what that looks like, right? Because this is a hard road to walk. And I feel like you both have shared some really important things, right? For women who are walking this to remember about Mother's Day, but also like families and co-parents who are interested in this journey. And I'm just so grateful for both of you just lending yourselves and your stories to me and sharing so honestly about what I know is a really soft spot in both of your hearts. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm just excited for our listeners to have the opportunity to hear just what the Lord has done in and through you and your families, and just hopefully encourage them on this Mother's Day. So thank you both so much.
Thank you.
We hope you feel seen and encouraged by this conversation today and by whatever journey you see yourself on this upcoming Mother's Day. If you are listening today and this content has touched your heart in some way and you'd like to talk to someone or have more questions for one of our guests, we would love to connect with you at women@ubcbeavercreek.com. Again, we're so grateful you're here and thank you for joining us for this mini-series honoring Mother's Day. We pray this has deepened your desire to know Jesus and remember that he too desires to know you. We'll see you next time.